Hello students, let's begin with the first chapter of your literature reader. This is Jody's Fawn. This is Jody's Fawn is Marjorie Kinnan Rawlings. She was born on August 8, 1896 and died on December 14, 1953. She has been awarded Pulitzer Prize for Fiction in 1939. Now let's read about Jody's Fawn. Now before you read, let me ask you a question that often sometimes what happens that instead of rushing directly to the doctor to treat a small cut or burn, we find quick and effective cures using, the things available at home. So same thing happened in this story that we are going to read about. Now, reading about the text, Jody allowed his thoughts to drift back to the fawn. He could not keep it out of his mind. He had held it in his dreams in his arms. He slipped from the table and went to his father's bedside. Penny lay at rest. His eyes were open and clear, but the pupils were still dark and dilated. So, students, how the story has started with the main character of the story, the protagonist, Jody. And two characters have been introduced in this para. One is Jody and the other is his father, that is Penny. And the relation between the two is of father and son. So what was Jody dreaming? He was dreaming that he is holding a fawn in his hands, in his arms, and he used to keep on dreaming about that fawn. And then he went to his father, who was laying at rest. That means his father was not well. And then he asked his father, "How are you feeling, Pa?" "Just fine, son. The old death has gone thieving elsewhere." "But wasn't it a close shave?" "I agree." Penny said, "I'm proud of you, boy, the way you kept your head and did what was needed." So you can make out that the father was not feeling well, and Jody just went to see him and asked him how he is. And here the father said that he is feeling better. And then what happened? "I can never forget them. The poor does saved me. That's certain." "Pa, the fawn may be out there yet. It might be hungry and very scared." "I suppose so. Pa, I'm a big boy now and don't need to drink milk. Why don't I go and see if I can find the fawn and bring it here?" So the boy suggested that he should bring the fawn, which was a baby, that to bring his home, and he also suggested that he can give his part of milk to the fawn because he is a grown-up boy now. So this also, tell us that the family was not that well to do. He has to, sacrifice his part of milk to feed the fawn. Penny lay quiet, staring at the ceiling. Now Penny was quiet as he was, thinking, "Boy, you have got me hemmed in. Won't take much to raise it, Pa. It will soon start eating leaves and acorns." Now the boy is trying to convince his father that he can bring the fawn because he's not going to continue drinking milk and it will start eating leaves and acorns. And what did the father say then? "You are smarter than boys of your age. We took its mother, and it wasn't to blame. Surely it seems ungrateful to leave it to starve, son. I can't say no to you. I never thought I would live to see another day." So here, Pa also was not able to refuse him. Why? Because he thought that the fawn's mother, the doe, saved him, and it's now his duty to feed the young fawn, the baby fawn. "Can I ride back with Millville and see if I can find?" "Tell your ma I said you can go." Now the boy is able to convince his father, and he said that, "Tell your mother that the father has permitted him to go and fetch the young fawn. He sidled back to the table and sat down. Was pouring coffee for everyone. He said, "Ma, Pa says I can go bring back the fawn." She held the coffee pot in mid-air. Now, when he told his mother that his father has allowed him to go and fetch the fawn, the mother was a little bit surprised and you can say worried. And this shows by this line that she was pouring the coffee and she just stopped pouring it and it was held in mid-air. What fawn? The fawn belonging to the doe we killed. We used the doe's liver to draw out the poison and save Pa. Now, in these lines, you can make out that why the doe was killed. It was killed, the doe was fawn's mother. It was killed to save Jody's father, Penny. She gasped. Well, for pity's sake. Pa says it would be ungrateful to leave it to starve. Dr. Wilson said, That's right, ma'am. Nothing in the world comes quite free. The boy is right, and his daddy is right. So there was another person here who tried to convince his mother, and that is Dr. Wilson. He also suggested that we should not leave, someone's child whose mother has sacrificed her life to save his father. Millville said, He can ride back with me. I'll help him find it. She set down the pot helplessly. Now, with this line, you can say that the mother was not fully convinced. She just put the teapot helplessly on the table and then suggested, she knew why she was refusing, and then suggested, Well, if you'll give it your milk, we have got nothing else to feed it. Mother was, she was worried that how she is going to feed the young fawn. And then she also said the same thing that Jody has to give his part of milk to the fawn. Millville said, Come on, boy, we have got to get riding. Ma Baxter asked anxiously, You will not be gone long. So the name of the mother is also being given here, that is Baxter. So we have Jody, father Penny, and mother Baxter. Ma Baxter, that is the surname. Jody said, I'll be back before dinner for sure. Millville mounted his horse and pulled Jody up behind him. He said to Millville, Do you think the fawn's still there? Will you help me find him? We'll find him if he is alive. How you know it's a he? Now the question came. There were so many questions, arising in Jody's mind. Will we be able to find how we are going to find? And when Millville said that, he said that we are going to find him, then Millville asked, How do you know that it's a he? The spots were all in a line on a doe fawn. Pa says the spots are every each way. So he explained why he was sure that the fawn was he. Jody gave himself over to thoughts of the fawn. They passed the abundant clearing. He said, Cut to the north, Millville. It was up here that Pa got bitten by the snake and killed the doe, and I saw the fawn. Now, here Jody was giving directions to Millville that where he was the witness, when his father was bitten by a snake, and to save his father, they killed the doe and used the doe's heart and liver to save his father's life. So he suggested the way that he saw the fawn over there, where to the northern side. Suddenly, Jody was unwilling to have Millville with him. If the fawn was dead or could not be found, he could not have his disappointment seen. And if the fawn was there, the meeting would be so lovely and so secret that he could not endure to share it. Now, Jody did not want Millville to accompany him further, so he suggested Millville to move away, and there were two reasons. Because if he's able to find Jody, he didn't want the pleasure to be shared by someone else, and if he finds the fawn dead, he could not want others to see his disappointment. So he said, It's not far now, but the scrub is very thick for a horse. I can make it on foot. He also suggested, and gave him the reasons why the horse could not go any further. So he said that I'll myself go further on foot. But I'm afraid to leave you, boy. Suppose you got lost or got bitten by the snake too. Melville was worried about the young boy, and he said that he is worried that he should not get bitten by the snake just like the father was bitten. I'll take care. It might take me a long time to find the fawn. If he has wandered, leave me off right there. All right, but you take it easy now. You know north here and east. So finally it was decided that he is going to go alone the fawn. And then he moved further. He waited for the sound of the hoofs to end, then cut to the right. The scrub was still. Only his own crackling of twigs sounded across the silence. He wondered for an instant if he had mistaken the direction. So Jody started moving all alone, and he was little bit, wondering whether he should not lost his way or something. Then suddenly, what happened? Then a buzzard rose in front of him and flapped onto the air. He came into the clearing under the oaks. Buzzards sat in a circle around the carcass of the doe. They turned their heads. Now, what happened? Suddenly, he saw a buzzard. Buzzards are the large birds, like vulture that eats the flesh, and they were eating the flesh of the doe, which was killed the day before. Carcass means dead body of an animal. They turned their heads on their long, scrawny neck and hissed at him. Here they is the vultures, and him here is Jody. He threw his bow at them, and they flew into an adjacent tree. So Jody very well knew how to save himself. So what he did, he threw his bow at him. The sand showed large cat prints, but the big cats killed fresh, and they had left the doe to the carrion birds. So you can make out that the doe was killed and the birds were eating the doe's flesh. He parted the grass at the place where he had seen the fawn. It did not seem possible that it was only yesterday. The fawn was not there. He circled the clearing. There was no sound, no sign. The buzzards clacked their wings, impatient to return to their business. He returned to the spot where the fawn had emerged and dropped on all fours, studying the sand for the small hoof prints. The night's rain had washed away all tracks except those of cat and buzzards. Now the boy was very curious to find where the he can find the fawn. So he was trying to look for the you know footprints, but they were all cleared by the rain. With, um, and he was not able to find the fawn. He was just worried, and the night's rain had washed away all tracks except of those of cat and buzzard, because rain it rained last night, and the big cats and buzzards came in the morning. Movement directly in front of him startled him so that he tumbled backward. Suddenly what happened? There was some kind of movement. The fawn lifted its face to his. Finally he saw the fawn. It turned its head with a wide wondering motion and shook him through with the stare of its liquid eyes. It was quivering. It made no effort to rise or run. Jody could not trust himself to move. So finally the two met. Who? Jody and the fawn. And the fawn, as you can see, he was very young, and at the same time he was very weak also, and probably sad also, because he has lost its mother. And as you can see in the lines, the fawn made no effort to rise or run. He was feeling helpless. He saw Jody, a human being, but could not run. He was not worried about his life now. Now, Jody could not trust himself to move. Why he could not trust himself? Because he was too happy to see the fawn. He whispered, "It's me." The fawn lifted its nose, scenting him. He reached out one hand and laid it on the soft neck. The touch made him delirious. Now you can, feel the feelings of Jody, how he felt. He felt exhilarated. He felt extremely happy to see Fawn, and he was trying to, introduce himself. by saying, it's me here means like I am your well-wisher. Don't be scared. I'm going to take care of you. And he tried to touch its soft neck. The touch made him delirious. Who is him here? Jody. Delirious here is extremely excited. He moved forward on all fours until he was close beside it. He put his arms around its body. He stroked its sides as gently as though the fawn were a china deer and he might break it. China deer here means like made of glass, as you must have noticed. China, the crockery made of China. We generally keep it, handle it very carefully because we feel that it might break. So he was handling the baby deer, the fawn, just like a China deer, as it will break. Its skin was very soft. It was sleek and clean and had a sweet scent of grass. He rose slowly and lifted the fawn from the ground. Its legs hung limply. They were surprisingly long, and he had to hoist the fawn as high as possible under his arm. So you can make out how the author has described the fawn. It was since it was just a baby and very weak and probably sad also. So its legs, which were too long, they were hung limply when Jody lifted the fawn in his arms. He was afraid that it might kick and bleat at sight and smell of its mother. Its mother, because its mother was dead and there was only the carcass, the flesh of the mother. And Jody was a little bit scared that the baby might cry, might bleed. Bleed is the sound that deer or fawn take out. He skirted the clearing and pushed his way into the thicket. Now Jody decided to move out of that place and moving towards his home. It was difficult to fight through with this burden. The burden that they have killed the fawn's mother. So that burden, the fawn's legs caught in the bushes and he could not lift his own with freedom. He tried to shield its face from prickling vines. Its head bobbed with his stride. His heart thumped with the marvel of its acceptance of him. Now, Jody was taking full care of the little fawn. He was trying to shield its face from the prickling vines because it was all forest and there were, vines and thorns all around. So he was putting all his efforts to save him, and his heart thumped with the marvel of its acceptance of him. He was too happy. At one point, like he was feeling sad that they have killed its mother, but at the same time, he was feeling too happy and thankful that the fawn had accepted him because now the fawn was in his lap, in his arms. He reached the trail and walked as fast as he could until he came to the intersection with the road home. He stopped to rest and set the fawn down on its dangling legs. It wavered on them. It looked at him and bleated. Now, as he was tired, he was also a child. Jody was also a child, so he just stopped and took some rest. He said enchanted, I'll carry you after I get my breath. Now he started talking to Fawn and he said that I'll carry you. Let me just take some rest. He remembered his father saying that a fawn would follow if it had first been carried. He started away slowly. The fawn stared after him. He came back to it and stroked it and walked away again. It took a few wobbling steps towards him and cried piteously. It was willing to follow him. It belonged to him. It was his own. He was light-headed with his joy. He wanted to fondle it, to run and romp with it, to call it to come to him. He dared not alarm it. He picked it up and carried it in front of him over his two arms. It seemed to him that he walked without effort. So this is how he was trying to make the fawn walk. When he walked on, the fawn followed him at once. He allowed it to walk a little distance, then picked it up again. The distance home was nothing. So they were almost about to reach to their home. He could have walked all day and into the night, carrying it and watching it follow. He was wet with sweat, but a light breeze blew through the June morning. So with these lines, you can make out that it was a summer morning, June morning, which is quite, warm. And Jody was sweating, but there was a light breeze, which gave him some comfort. The sky was as clear as spring water in a blue china cup. He came to the clearing. It was fresh and green after the night's rain. He fumbled with the latch and was finally obliged to set down the fawn to manage it. Then he had an idea. He would walk into the house, into Penny's bedroom, with the fawn walking behind him. But at the steps, the fawn barked and refused to climb them. He picked it up and went to his father. Penny lay with closed eyes. So finally, two of them reached the house, and Jody thought that first he will take the fawn to his father's room. And he reached there and he saw that Penny, his father, was lying on the bed with closed eyes. Jody called, Pa, look. Penny turned his head. As he was not well, a snake bit him. Jody stood beside him. The fawn clutched hard against him. It seemed to Penny that the boy's eyes were as bright as the fawn's. He said, I'm glad you found him. Now, Penny, the father, saw that the boy's eyes were bright. Of why they were bright? Because he was extremely happy to find the fawn, and he wanted to show it firstly to his father. And the father responded that I'm glad you found him. Jyoti then went to the kitchen. The fawn wobbled after him. The fawn is now, he's getting accustomed to Jody, and he has accepted him. A pan of morning's milk stood in the kitchen safe. The cream had risen on it. He skimmed the cream into a jug. He poured milk into a small gourd. He held it out to the fawn. It butted it suddenly, smelling the milk. He saved it precariously from spilling over the floor. It could make nothing of the milk in the gourd. He dipped his fingers in the milk, and now he tried to feed him. He must have realized that the fawn is thirsty. So, and he knew that it was just a baby. He offered some milk to him, and then how he is feeding him? He dipped his fingers in the milk and thrust them into the fawn's soft, wet mouth. It sucked greedily because it was hungry. When he withdrew them, it bleated frantically and butted him because now he realized that he wanted more milk. So what the fawn did, it when he withdrew what? His fingers. It bleated frantically. Then the fawn bleated frantically because it wanted more milk. He dipped his fingers again, and as the fawn sucked, he lowered them slowly into the milk. Blew, sucked, and snorted. It stamped its small hoofs impatiently. As long as he held his fingers below the level of the milk, the fawn was content. It closed its eyes dreamily. It was ecstasy to feel its tongue against his hand. Its small tail flicked back and forth. The last of the milk vanished in a swirl of foam and gurgling. So finally, Jody was able to bring the fawn home and fed him with milk and has decided that the fawn is going to live with him. I hope, students, you must have liked the story, and if you want to know then what happened further, you can read the novel with the same name. And let me just add one thing. You know what name he gave to the fawn? It's not given in the story, but if you read the novel, you'll come to know. He gave the name Flag Fawn. Okay? Happy reading. Thank you.